welcome to the weekly Governance Voice. Glad that you have joined us. Today we have an amazing man in the house. We have FCS Professor Wyne Mutuma. He's our guest today. And we shall be talking matters to do with rethinking governance as a strategic enabler in Africa's development. We want to look at a broader sphere of our region. Welcome to the show, and karibu sana, Professor.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Wyne.
I know this has been long coming, and I'm glad to have you here. And maybe for the sake of our viewers, I'd like starting by asking, when we give you the title here, FCS, we'd like to know where you practicing this first before we get to the African footprint. Yes.
Well, I have a firm of my own under the name of Wyne and Associates.
Okay.
That's where I do most of my corporate governance practice.
Okay.
My company secretarial practice. Today, it's more or less merged into one because, as you know, the COSEC also does a lot of governance advisory work. But what might be unique is that we are located here in Nairobi and also in Cape Town.
Okay.
So I sort of cascade the two areas. We have a much, much smaller office in Juba, also in South Sudan.
All right.
And you can find me in any of those three locations. I'm not suggesting that I'm omnipresent by any chance.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. That's good because we want to really look at the region in a way. And my first question to you would be on how you define governance in the context of the African development landscape. How would you define that?
Well, the simplest way to think about governance is about structures, policies, practices, procedures that you put in place to direct and control any given entity. So in the context of Africa, it's a very important subject, one at a macro level, because the states have had a history pre and post colonial times and of course post-independence. And they are grappling with the idea of how to govern their people and essentially give the best out of process. But it also has a lower layer. There are several entities inside Africa, and they're more or less even more interconnected than they were in the past. Companies, corporations, non-profits, state corporations, and all of these entities. And they themselves require systems, practices, and controls to deliver, whether it's services, whether it's business enterprises, and so forth. So the subject is extremely important in our day and age for the continent.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for that context. Let's talk about why it is important for Africa to rethink governance at this particular moment in its development trajectory. And I am sure the fact that you traverse several countries on your activities means you have a bird's eye view of what you see in different countries here. Why is it important to rethink governance?
So I see Africa, first and foremost, as an incredibly resourced continent. It's rich. There's no dispute about that. But wealth itself doesn't guarantee translation into riches, GDP, per capita income raises, and so forth. The key to that link is how you govern. Those resources. And I think that's where Africa has been struggling for a bit, because it is grappling with poor governance systems. And they translate to very low output and very little value addition. The other context, of course, is Africa is a continent of very, very many young people. So our median age is probably the lowest in the whole world. It's got very, very young people.
Absolutely.
Now, those mushrooming numbers require a very, very intense management. And that management is what we call governance, the governance of the people. And to make sure that these young people can actually not just be a numbers game, but they can actually translate into an output game.
Okay.
The other thing, of course, about Africa is the geopolitical context is changing in a crazy manner. So people everyone is sort of becoming introvert. You've seen a lot of support that we're getting from the West isn't coming. The US administration has changed its stance, Europe and so forth. So everyone's left to their own devices, which means that we have to sort ourselves out. And the first step to sorting ourselves out is the question of governance.
Absolutely. I love that. We've been left to our own devices and we better work on that. Let me ask you, do you think poor governance is the biggest bottleneck facing us here in Africa?
Absolutely. I mean, without doubt.
You could give some context why.
Just look at our elections. I don't need to go far. I mean, just look at, beyond even our elections, look at what the outcome in terms of leadership and what we get in very, very important positions. Look at the age-old problem of how the worth of the materials that we export outside and what we bring back inside. And then look at the big question of ethics. Ethics is a governance question. So you just need to pick a paper, a newspaper, to watch a news report, and you will see the classic problems, something about a maize scandal, something about transport scandal, something about an education scandal. And you will be quickly drawn to this dilemma that it's not the existence of institutions that we're lacking. It's the proper functioning of those institutions. What do you say when a vehicle leaves Nairobi, for example, goes all the way to the west of the country, passes several checkpoints, and they are meant to be banned. There's great visibility of the police, but the next morning you wake up, you find 54 people dead. So what causes that? We had checkpoints. The vehicle was meant to have been roadworthy and so forth. What do you say in a context, and I sit as the chair of the National Examinations Appeals Tribunal, what do you say about a context where your invigilators are policemen? That's very, very interesting. Walking around with G3s and guns. It doesn't make sense. In an exam room. The answer to that is that there's a serious governance dilemma that we're facing as a country. And you can go on and on to the medical sector and so forth.
Don't even go there. We seriously need some help here. And just looking through the public sector especially and how it performs. Speaking of the public sector, are there innovations, in your opinion, that you see or reforms that have shown a promise in improving this governance?
I really like that question because I would hate to be amongst those that it's all doom and gloom. I think there are wonderful things that have been happening, both here and in other countries. Think about e-citizen and the Huduma centers and the way they unclogged what used to be a nightmare for any one of us. Just the multiplicity of getting documentations, questions about payments and receipts and all of that. That is a fantastic innovation. Decentralization, what we call here devolution, and how it's happened, that's another one. And if you go to Rwanda, just across our neighbor, you'll find they have this Irembo program, which I have to say has helped Rwanda in astronomical levels. It's a one-stop shop. It deals with a problem of ease of doing business. You don't go and get a multiplicity of licenses. You just step in, and with one license, you've sorted out everything. So that I think is giving this country particularly a run for its money. In Ghana, they've brought into play a digital ID that has changed the equation of trust between the populace and the instruments of governance. So there are good stories that are happening everywhere.
I think it's someone was giving me a story that in Rwanda you have a certificate of life, just to show that you were there and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, wow, that's proper governance. That's good. But we can't fail to talk about politics. The political economy has total influence, especially on how governance is projected across these governments and across Africa. And I'd like you to paint a picture on that, just to speak how this political economy in many African countries affect the implementation of sound governance practices.
I would sum up my viewpoint in this, that after about 15 years with the new constitution, we've accepted that institutions and governance on paper isn't enough. And we've actually accepted that the individual, the driver, is just as good as the vehicle. So you can have a Ferrari, and the Ferrari is being driven like a tractor. And the problem is the driver. So how that plays out in real life is like this. So if your appointment process, let's take state corporations, and you get all these guys that are, appointed to serve, if you don't get the best people, if there is political influence on who sits on the board, then you may as well expect the board to function in the best mean or average of those players that are on the board. So this has been one major drawback, where politics influences how governance actually works. By killing a meritocracy, by introducing nepotism and so forth. The other way the political economy influences this game is whether there will be political will to make sure that governance lives out and expresses itself. So, you can have a very well-intended thing, but it's met with cold water, whether it's in the context of reforms or whether it's in the context of making sure what is on paper is what's going to be experienced on the ground. So think about the way we speak about corporations, state corporations being the face of Kenya, having this number of board members, making sure that there is diversity and the skills, enterprise, questions around corruption. You'll only be as good as the political will carves out space for you to do what you're meant to do. So those are nuances. You'll find political intrusions inside. And then, of course, the last one, the worst of them all, is that politics influences whether the idea of governance has a bite in its teeth. So what happens to people who flaunt the rules and break them? Politics is so powerful. It influences even the hope that this makes sense, and it rewards those people who live by them. So there was a time we talked, I did a research. It's a research that was done with young people, and they were asking, will you guys we're asking them, will you be upstanding? Will you live out the values, talk about the national values systems that we speak so fondly about? I said, no, we won't. And we asked, why? I said, because what we see you reward
is not
what
you're telling us.
What you tell us. So you are still, I don't know, whether you were able to recollect, but there used to be a very popular song, So Many Vijana.
Yes.
Mwisho wa kusoma, mtapata kazi nzuri. I said, this doesn't work. You guys tell us to do this. But in the play of things, the people we're seeing driving the big cars, living in the big houses, are those that flaunt the rules. So why ask us to keep the rules?
Oh, my goodness. We certainly need a revamp or a recheck, I don't know what we call it. But by the way, when you look around Africa, is there a country that you say these guys are headed in the right direction when you look at the governance landscape?
Well, it would have to be Mauritius.
Oh.
Yeah, it would have to be Mauritius, and I think everything just speaks for itself.
Okay.
I know a lot of people would have wanted me to name a number of other African countries, but I think governance needs a two-tier system.
Yeah.
It needs the rules in place, but it needs also the breadth of divergence of opinions and many of that. And I think you see that classically in Mauritius. Mauritius has done a fantastic job.
I love that. Why I'm saying that is because probably you and I are going to have a side talk, then we can go to Mauritius together.
We'd like that very much.
And see to ourselves, right? Let's talk about, in the same breath, trends that you're seeing that are shaping Africa's future, whether it's technology or whether it's climate change or urbanization, especially in those areas. Are there any key governance trends that you can say are shaping Africa's future?
Everyone, of course, will see the rapid rise of the digital revolution.
Absolutely.
You can't escape what's happening. Simply put, post-pandemic, post-2020, the march towards a very, very different world in terms of how we engage, the means that we use, how we process, how we analyze has kicked in. And governance depends on all of that. There are discussions even today about AI and the possibility of digital board members, people that aren't your natural person, machines, just the way the machines are taking minutes. And if we thought about a corporation secretary as somebody who takes minutes, these days, who needs that? By the time you're finished with a meeting, your done. AI notes sends out all the minutes.
So well and summarized.
Everything is summarized, So it is happening. Think about how you manage systems, automations. A lot of automating of papers is kicking into place and so forth. And then I think most important, we're also living in the period of this existential threat of climate change and what it could mean.
Yeah, that's true.
And of course, the burden of all of that is experienced by countries with lower per capita income.
Yeah.
It means you can't do business like you did yesterday. Just move around, exploit the resources, use whatever fossil fuels that you want without any risk of repercussions. So we are now starting to think how governance can play an important part in this agenda of sustainable development.
Absolutely.
So that our children and their children's children will get to see a zebra. And, that we won't be talking about stuff that we saw and it's no longer existing.
You're right, yeah.
ESG also has become a big part of that, environment, social governance. And that the corporation is then seen to work not in tandem as this kind of thing, as a thing that's integrated in how it does its strategies and so forth. Even yourselves, a powerful media company like yourself, they're suggesting that your bread and butter is not simply who you attract and the stories that you tell, but the machines you're using and renewable energy and all of this is now being forced into the corporation. And then you said it, the younger population, rural-urban migration, densities in our part of the world. I don't know what the actual census now is of Nairobi means that you must organize. You can't sit back and watch, otherwise you're going to have sewer and utility systems unable to cope. And you have the proximity of many other social ills like crime, poor health hazards creeping up because we haven't planned, and planning is a sound part of governance.
Wow, that should be another full conversation. I'm still stuck though at the digital board members, but we should talk about it as we come to a close. By the way, and I know this conversation content is very interesting. I saw and this is verbatim, the governor of Nairobi County tweet and say Nairobi must work, and he gave examples that the GDP of Nairobi is 3 times of Rwanda. He also gave like 20 times Eritrea and the like, several, and said I think we would fit at around number 18 in terms of GDP in Africa. And I thought, wow,
it's amazing.
And I thought that's a lot of money. We got the resources, but when you come in the city center and the governance conversation comes in, I think we need help.
Absolutely.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but what would be your thoughts on that?
Well, I think we've seen that transformation happen in the famous example of Singapore. And if you think about Nairobi and Singapore, you think about scale, size. Now, if we were to blow it up, Singapore has probably more or less the same number of people within the same area and is producing, to flip it, tens of times more than an African country's GDP, including ours.
Yeah.
So what's the answer? And the answer is simple: ethics. Ethics, ethics, because that's what Lee Kuan Yew did. He built the moral compass so that money wasn't being pilfered and just going into pipes. You know, you might talk about all those resources, but where are they going?
Where are they going?
You know? Yeah. And then the other, of course, is cohesion. He created a culture and a value system where people were together. And they had certain norms that were driving them, like the norms of hard work.
Yeah.
So if you still have a city where people are, separated, they're not together, it doesn't matter what you give them. It won't deliver.
It won't, yeah.
I can tell you a very comical and slightly sad story that I don't think it's something that you fail to experience. Beautiful road. I think once I saw a road and I was driving with some guest. Yeah. It's one of these excellent bypasses that we have. Yeah. But right across the road, it had a big sign somewhere that usikojoe hapa. Now, I thought, man. So I didn't even want to explain to my passengers what does that mean.
Zebras crossing.
I said no. It's just I mumbled my way through. But it tells you that a mindset. It's not what you give the people. You have to give more than that. You have to give a mindset so that what you give becomes now of value. So people, if you make the most fantastic roads, but people don't know the little things that make a city beautiful, like don't litter. Yeah. There was a time I was following a vehicle. It was a public service vehicle. And these guys, as they would drive through, I'm told the conversation inside the vehicle was very hilarious, but they kept throwing your miwa and your banana, and you're following. And what was very interesting is the passengers in that vehicle, they were making a lot of noise and complaining about how the governor doesn't look after the city. Oh. So
and they were there.
And they were there. They were saying this was some time back, I think during the time of Kidero, saying, oh, Kidero, angalia hata vile Nairobi imekuwa siku hizi. Hits the mirror, throws it out. Yeah. Siwezi kumheshimu. So the mirror effect. This is not just a leadership thing. It can't be left to governors. It's about you, me, and everyone else. What is our role as active participants to making this change?
Wow. We need to certainly rethink this. Oh, gosh. So as we close, and I love the fact that you've touched on mindset, mind shifts that we may need in terms of mindset changes. What are your final thoughts in this whole conversation? Because I, as you were sharing the story and the examples, I was struggling with the fact that we have, the ethics are there on book. Everybody knows this is what you need to do. But we need this implemented on every soul, especially the young generation. And I'd want you to end at that part where, when it comes to governance in Africa, what would you say is the last thing or the one thing that probably we may need to do to ensure that probably the next generation, because probably this other one is too sick to change, the next generation takes a proper governance and learns the lessons that we have learned from the other generation?
I think it would be two things. First, to accept that this is a journey and not a destination. Okay. So that I think every now and then you meet people who are so restless because they only think about when they will arrive. And they don't know the importance of the entire journey to arriving. So this is a popular joke in our house. We know who those restless people are. And tutafika lini. And we keep telling them, look outside the window, enjoy the view, and make something of it. So that is something that I'll tell the young people, that it's not enough to think about the outcome, but do think about your journey and the process in producing that outcome. Make sure that you're part of it. Yeah. The other thing, of course, is I think there is nothing that is more powerful than change that you model.
Yeah.
I think we are in danger of many people who want to see change out there because they don't themselves live out. And that is a governance question. So you can't expect the governance ecosystem to work, point at the leader, point at the government, point at the company, the church, and so forth, without a flip mirror looking at yourself. Because governance is only as good as you are personally governed by the same instruments. So if you want ethics, be ethical. If you want to see time keeping and you're there, talking about how people arrive late, please make sure that you are amongst those that were at the front seat when the program started. Live what you want to live out, lived out rather, and be the change that you'd want to see.
FCS Professor Wyne Mutuma, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mina. It's been a pleasure.
Wow.
Asante sana.
I'm more than inspired as well. Be the change that you want to see. All this governance, whether it's in the region, in the globe, starts on a personal level. Don't litter, keep time, do all that. It's a personal thing, and then you'll be able to influence and pass it on to the others. Thank you so much for your time. That has been our moment here at the Weekly Governance Voice. Make sure to subscribe, by the way, and tell a friend to listen to this. Share it to someone who needs to know about matters governance when we are talking about rethinking it as a strategic enabler in Africa's development. Bye-bye.